Good evening, and welcome to Night 5 of the Night Owl October Marathon. If you're just tuning in, well, it's good to have you. If you're a frequent visitor, then you know what you're in store for. Content may contain adult language and scenarios that may not be suitable for all audiences, so listeners' discretion is advised. I also want to take a moment to say how excited and grateful I was to team up with another podcast you guys should check out called the Witchever Path. Give them a listen. You may hear a familiar voice, and you should definitely follow along with their stories. I love a little plot twist. If you like what you hear on this podcast, head on over to iTunes and comment, subscribe, rate, and review. It truly goes a long way, and it helps build the podcast community that much more. Growing up, it was a blast to explore things, new territory, new places, new people. Sometimes an innocent curiosity can dig up a lot more. Lock your doors, check your windows, and get comfortable, because you won't be sleeping tonight. I give you the Secret Garden. Our son was never afraid to get dirty. Surprisingly, it drove me crazier than it did his mom. We had just moved into our new house that had more than enough backyard for Jay to explore. Between him and the pup Boxer, they always came into the house trailing with a bucket or a mouthful of things they found or dug up. The way the backyard was set up was that the outskirts of it, the woods were connected to it. Jay was an explorer, but fortunately he didn't test boundaries. The dog didn't either. They were a team, so wherever one was, so was the other. I was baffled by the things they discovered. A few baseball cards, crazy looking rocks, of course, that we just had to keep. And the dog found what looked like an old knitted hat. That was my assumption. I'm sure this wasn't in our backyard, but closer to the actual woods, which means that Jay and Boxer were exploring out of territory. I warned Jay that he's not allowed to go that far, but he insisted that he wasn't. He's 7, so I'm sure he was exploring and possibly just didn't realize. Meanwhile, Boxer just kept finding things, like weird things. Recently, it was old keys. I understand dogs giving gifts as a way of expressing affection, but literally every day there was a new thing. I was getting curious, so the following days, I decided to sit outside with them and see just how far they were going. We had a decent-sized backyard, but from the looks of things, they weren't venturing that far at all, unless they were throwing me off their scent. I was surprised by how many shallow holes we now had in our backyard. I just reminded myself that they could be refilled. It's all good. I typically let Jay explore for about an hour, and then that's it. But since it was the weekend, I let him have at it. My wife and I sat outside the whole time and just relaxed. The night came, and Jay and Boxer returned covered in dirt. Boxer had a dirty scarf, and Jay had a bucket full of who knows what. My wife took Jay in to get him clean while I was on dog duty. After she put him to sleep, we both came downstairs and just looked through Jay's bucket. Rocks, chapstick, a shirt. We kept digging. There was a lot of dirt in the bucket. My wife and I, we were sure of what we were seeing. This wasn't a rock. This is a skeleton of someone's hand. There you have it. Tune in later this week for another story to keep you up at night. Listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast: Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Red Circle. You can even check us out on YouTube. You can follow on Instagram at Thebirdbrainpodcast, Twitter at Thebirdbrainpodcast, and come hang out in the Podcast Junkie community Discord server. There's a lot of stories there, a lot of podcasts, a lot of awesome people. Sleep tight.